that there's a crew in town. The head hillbillies are making their rounds. Small town whispers loud and clear. The sheriff shot the judge in his chambers chair.
Sheriff got a secret he won't keep. Judge shot dead in his disbelief. A lot of people have some stories to tell. Dark pass away, get the sound of a shotgun shell.
All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be bound.
Neighbors hide behind their blinds. Whisper tales of troubled minds. Skeletons covering the mountainside. A treacherous reality in the pines.
Winter reveals the hidden lies. Moonlight couldn't mask their cries. Shadows caught in sunlit skies. There's no cover, no disguise. All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be bound.
Winter reveals the hidden lie. Moonlight could mask their cries. Shadows caught in sunlit skies. There's no cover, no disguise.
All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be bound.
Okay, guys, we're going to try this again. Sorry. Can't help the internet. All right. So, let's
A why did he do it case. Here's the story.
Whitesburg, Kentucky is a small rural community of under 2,000 residents in eastern Kentucky. It's the kind of place where everyone knows each other, a place where many folks have both personal and professional connections. And that was the situation with the local sheriff, Sean Mickey Stines, and the only judge in town, Kevin Mullins, both with great reputations, known especially for their work in trying to help their community battle the opioid epidemic, which was taking so many lives and destroying so many families. On September 19th, 2024, the judge and the sheriff grabbed lunch together with some other people. Later that afternoon, the sheriff headed back to the judge's chambers. Once he got there, he went into the judge's office for a closed-door private meeting. What happened next? No one in this small town expected. The sheriff fired his gun several times, taking the life of Judge Mullins inside his own chambers. Now, with Sheriff Mickey Stines charged with first-degree murder and much of what happened that day being captured on surveillance camera inside and outside the courthouse, everyone's wondering if the videos are the key to understanding what happened that day.
The video is an extremely significant part of this story, this investigation, and will be a part of this trial. That's because we're talking about the middle of the day, inside and outside of a courthouse. And there are surveillance cameras everywhere. They're inside the judge's chambers where the shooting took place. They're in the hallways, in the courtrooms, outside the courthouse, across the street. There are cameras everywhere capturing everything that is happening. We've been going through a lot of those videos that have been released to us. And by going through those videos, we're going to show you tonight and break it down part by part, piece by piece, what this video shows. And we're going to begin with the video from before the sheriff and before the judge go to lunch. So this is sort of the video in the beginning of the day. And I want to bring in CourtTV field reporter Cody Thomas, who spent time out there and has been going through all these videos for you, and he's here to break them all down. Cody?
Good evening, Vinny. Of course, as you just said, naturally, we have to begin at the beginning of that day, specifically around lunchtime. Now, let's start right here inside the courthouse. This is around 12.
Okay, so let me stop here. This is a different hallway, okay? So any of you who are not from here following this case, we're going to go through these videos, and I'm going to point out the location of where they're at. Okay, so that door that Mickey is coming out of right now, that's the door where if you were with us here a few minutes ago, the guy with the pink shirt, we're going to see him in a minute. That's the brother-in-law. That's the Commonwealth attorney. He was recently appointed in Edison Banks's position. And so he's Judge Mullins's brother-in-law, okay? Now, this is the smoking room. This is what everybody calls the smoking room. This is in the back of the courthouse, above where the jail is. The jail is kind of underneath them, more over on the other side of this hallway here.
07 p.m. To the right of your screen, you can see Sheriff Mickey Stines in that doorway.
If he walks out this doorway and then walks down the hallway and then turns right at the end of the hallway, then that takes you all the way back down that other big long hallway that heads to the front door of the courthouse. So this is kind of like a little U or a backwards J.
He's looking down at his phone. He's just calm, cool, collected, like any old Thursday. He comes out of this door, he walks out, exits into what looks like a break room, presumably with other staff that works inside the courthouse. It looks like 5 people in there. He walks through the break room, doesn't really say much to...
See, I don't think that's really right. It's kind of backwards. This is just a different angle of what we just saw. So you're looking at the back of Mickey right here, and there's the brother-in-law in the pink shirt. But the video that we just saw, that is from in front of where Mickey is standing right now. And where he exits to the left, as soon as he goes out this doorway, if he goes to the left through that door where we just saw him go through, that takes him down a little flight of stairs there and goes right out that side door that we see the judge and all of them coming out from at lunch when they go to lunch.
Anyone, but everyone's just chilling out, relaxing. He's standing in the doorway, and then look, right there at the bottom of your screen, there is Judge Kevin Mullins. Now we have Judge Mullins and Sheriff Stines in this break room at the same time. But interestingly enough, Sheriff Stines exits the room just a few seconds after Mullins comes in. But now we see Mullins just standing here, talking with everyone again, presumably to work inside that courthouse, laughing it up. This woman comes back towards him.
Now, this guy that's sitting at the end of the table here, talking on his phone, that is Jason Eccles. That is the boy who was named so many times in the depositions of having all of those childish communications with Mickey and Ben. That is Jason Eccles sitting there.
Says a few words to him. Of course, she's smiling, walks back. And then we see a few minutes later here, now at just afternoon 12.
So what it kind of looks like is Mickey's went out that side door, and then he's went and did wherever he went, and then he's coming back in the front door of the courthouse. This is that big long hallway I was saying was at the end of the other video.
11 p.m., you see Sheriff Stines coming in through the front door of the courthouse. We don't know where he's coming from, but he gets here in the middle of the hallway, then he stops and turns around, and then he exits the courthouse again. He walks right back out this door, as if he'd forgotten something or something was on his mind that caused him to tick and come back outside the courthouse. And this is just another angle of that. He walks through and then exits the courthouse. And now this is around noon. This is actually in the judge's chambers where that shooting occurred. You can see Sheriff Stines sitting across.
Now, I stopped it in the last one that we were doing. So if you weren't with us, let me say it again. So right directly through this doorway, you see there's a hall, and then there's another room over there, and that person is standing up. That is where the guy in the pink shirt is sitting. So that's the smoking room. And then this is his chambers. So it's just right directly, across the hallway from each other.
The desk from Judge Mullins. This is Judge Mullins' chambers with two other guys sitting in there. Everyone's calm, everyone's collected, everyone's just talking, just a couple of guys sitting around. You see Judge Mullins lighting a cigarette inside. Then just a few minutes later, you see Sheriff Stines stand up. Looks like he says a few things to the boys. He's standing there talking to Judge Mullins. He walks out the doorway. He takes another pause, turns back and says a few more words, leaves the room. Judge Mullins again stays in here with these guys, presuming to work inside the courthouse, or maybe they just knew each other because it's a very small community.
Yes, they knew each other. They worked together every single day. And these boys over here on the windowsill, they're not boys. Michael is the one with the white letters on his shirt that was actually sitting in the windowsill. You see how very nonchalant they all are. Like the Commonwealth attorney had his feet all propped up on the table, laid back. They're all smoking in there. Michael's sitting in the windowsill, like he owns the place. And this guy in the solid blue t-shirt is another rehab guy. He's from a different company than Michael, than the other boy. So they're bringing in more rehabs and more rehabs. Now, Mike Watts is our circuit court clerk. Now, he's the one that's down here in the bottom right hand of the corner of the video. He's the one in the blue and white checkered shirt. His son is the assistant county and Commonwealth attorney. So he works in the downstairs courtroom, the district courtroom, which handles all the misdemeanors. And he also works as an assistant Commonwealth attorney in the upstairs courtroom for Judge Kraft and Matt Butler there. And Michael's been in there for a very, very long time. So he's got his hands in everything. So all the cases anyway. I've never heard anything about Michael doing anything bad, but he's been there a very, very long time, and he's very deeply enrooted in the courthouse and Whitesburg. So that's his son.
1,100 people in the entire county. Now, Judge Mullins exits 12:07. Sheriff Stines exits to the side of the building right here, walks down the sidewalk. And one thing to note here, Vinny, you notice that Sheriff Stines is by himself for the majority of these videos. Of course, he walks to the room, sees other people. But when you see Judge Mullins is moving with the posse of people, with this whole crew that we saw inside the chambers.
Now, it looked more to me right directly behind this courthouse where Mickey walked to. That's the sheriff's department back there. You see, it's just a little one-lane alley that goes back behind the courthouse? Well, right next to that church where you can't see sits the little building that has the sheriff's department in it. So it looked to me more like Mickey was going back to the sheriff's department for something, and then he was going to meet the rest of them down at the restaurant. So I don't think there was anything nefarious about him walking by himself that day. It looks to me like he was just going back to the sheriff's department for something. Heck, he could have just went to get his wallet for all we know, you know.
Right here, we're looking on our screen. Where's Sheriff Stines? Again, 12:11, just a few minutes later, walking back down the sidewalk alone down the side of the courthouse. Don't know why he's alone. Of course, he was in the chambers with everyone else in there in Judge Mullins' chambers. But again, he walked out left alone early before everyone else left. And Judge Mullins was with the group of people that were in that room.
And one more thing, where those pillars are standing at the back of the courthouse down there, that's the entrance to the jail. So the jail is in the basement of the courthouse, and it's back there in the back. That Sally port that we see the dash cam footage of Mickey when he's being arrested, that's on the other side of the courthouse, but it's back there in the back off of that little alley, that back street.
And we see him still walking here, going to what we now know is to be the lunch down the street at Streetside Bar and Grill.
You know, Cody, as I watched that, it was fascinating, right? Because everyone's in there together in the chambers, and then the video we see afterwards, the 12:07, from different perspectives at different times, it's clear that as they're leaving, not leaving together. The sheriff is leaving by himself, even though they seem to be having some level of conversation amongst each other. This is fascinating. All right, Cody's going to stay with us. Let's get to the first question in our investigation tonight, which is, what do the before lunch videos reveal that we just saw? What sort of insight, and can we put a little more context around all of it? Let's bring in our guests. Joining me.
He forgot Ned's name.
Representing the woman suing Sean Mickey Stines,
Maybe,
Ned
I don't
Pillersdorf
know.
is with us, and the host of Hillbilly Crime on YouTube. She's closely followed this case. Elizabeth Jones is with us as well. Welcome to you both. Interesting watching some of that before lunch video. Elizabeth, I'll begin with you, trying to put a little more context into it. Do we have any idea who these other folks were? Who were the folks that stayed with the judge? And because obviously Mickey is by himself there.
Well, I can add a little bit of context to that. The sheriff's department is directly behind the courthouse. So it looks to me like Mickey, when he went off by himself behind the courthouse, he was headed to the sheriff's department. And then he's come back. For what? Of course, we don't know. So we already know that the people that were...
So we're looking at the video right now, Elizabeth, going in that direction. Is that going towards the sheriff's department?
Yeah, that's the jail right there where the pillars are. That's the entrance to the jail that's in the basement of the courthouse. And I think that's the only entrance to it besides the Sally port where we saw him in the other video. And then the sheriff's department is in a building just right across that back alley there behind the courthouse.
And Elizabeth, you were going to add something to that. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just going to say the people that were walking with him down there to that lunch, that was one of his, or walking with the judge, was one of Mickey's deputies. That was Jason Eccles, who was mentioned in the depositions. And I'm not sure who the woman was. I don't know if that, well, I don't want to say until I find out, but I'll find out.
Absolutely. Ned Pillersdorf, as we watch what's happening here before the lunch, does anything strike you as giving us any idea that this is anything other than a normal day?
It does appear to be a normal day, but really to put this in context, generally judges are supposed to be independent and not associating with people who are likely before them in court. And my experience in that courthouse was that conference room you saw is sometimes where my clients' fates are discussed and decided. And the fact that the judge is having an informal meeting with the sheriff, who's got numerous cases in front of him, in one sense is unsettling. You certainly wouldn't see that with a federal judge.
I gotta stop this and say, this was nothing unusual. These people always hung out together every day that they were at the courthouse. It was a boys' club. They all hung out. And I mean, you saw that one woman in there, and I know who she is, but for the life of me, it has not come to my brain yet. So if any of y'all know who that blonde lady is, tell me, so I will quit having anxiety over it.
But it's a very informal situation there. On the other hand, what is the mystery here? There's something going on with Sheriff Stines, who's going to shoot this judge in about an hour. And it's just bewildering what's going on.
Elizabeth Jones, any more context about early part of that day, the morning leading up to just before lunch?
Well, it's been reported that Mickey and the man that was sitting in the windowsill, Michael, he's the preacher, and he's also the community liaison that works for the ARC Rehab Center, who's under investigation with the FBI for Medicaid fraud. So there's a whole lot of moving parts to this. That's not just the sheriff shooting the judge.
Ned, your thoughts? Obviously we don't know what they're talking about, but this was the week that the sheriff had been deposed by your law firm. I wonder if that comes up at all in any of these conversations.
Well, I've noticed that Stein's defense attorney keeps saying that somehow the deposition that in my office with my co-counsel on Monday led to the shooting on Thursday was somehow a motive in all this. It's inexplicable to me. I mean, when I heard of the shooting on Thursday, I admit the first thought I had was maybe the litigation I'm involved in has something to do with this. Now, his attorney keeps saying it's, quote, front and center of the motive. And there's all sorts of wild speculation as to what's really going on. I've said before, I thought the sheriff's demeanor during my deposition, for lack of a better word, was odd. It wasn't your typical deposition of a sheriff in a civil rights case. But having said that, I have no idea why his defense attorney keeps saying that my litigation, the litigation me and my co-counsel are involved in, was somehow a motive in all this. But he keeps saying that.
I don't know why Ned is so perplexed about that, because I've said it from the very beginning that I thought the deposition that he gave that Monday was absolutely connected. I believe that the ARC connection is also a factor in all of this. And, the guy in the pink shirt, our new Commonwealth attorney, Mr. Matt Butler, he is very comfortable in that courthouse, even though he was just recently appointed at the end of last year to that position. And then he was elected right after that back into that position. But he's Judge Mullins' brother-in-law, and he was also a defense attorney who was following in the footsteps of the great Daniel Dotson, who I have found out has recently retired and closed his business. So his law practice. So Daniel is no longer practicing law, from what I understand. He's retired now. But Matt Butler worked on a whole lot of cases as a defense attorney, following right in the same footsteps as Daniel Dotson in this county courthouse. And so he was very, very, and still is, comfortable in that courthouse. So it didn't surprise me one bit that he had his feet stuck all up on the table.
Yeah, I don't believe in coincidences. There's too much happening all at once here. All right, guests are going to stay with us. We've got more video to go through from that day. Coming up next, what do the lunchtime videos reveal?
There had been a lunch meeting between Sheriff Stines and Judge Mullins.
There was.
Pardon?
There was.
Okay.
Grieving widow or mastermind behind a murder.
She wouldn't be involved in a murder.
There had been a lunch meeting between Sheriff Stines and Judge Mullins.
There was.
Pardon?
There was.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't see one. I couldn't hear your response. I wasn't being tried. So where did this take place?
It's a restaurant called Street Side. It's just down the street from the courthouse.
And there was nothing unusual that had arisen during that luncheon?
I was told that the judge made a statement to Mickey about, do we need to meet private in my chambers? That's all I was told.
Now, this guy here kind of gets on my nerves. He is the lead detective of the state police, the Kentucky State Police, who are investigating this case. And he acted, when we watched that hearing that he testified in, I had the impression from what he said on the stand that he wasn't even there, period. I got the impression that everything he knew was told to him secondhand, that he was nowhere around, the courthouse that day. But then we look at that dash cam footage of Mickey being arrested in the Sallyport, and this guy's big mug is sitting right there in front of the dash cam video. So I found that very interesting. And also, there have been a couple comments or questions about Ned Pillersdorf. Well, now Ned is the one who is representing the victims, two of the victims of Ben Fields, which was Mickey's deputy, who pled guilty to all the R-word charges and the Smex abuse charges. But something that I found very interesting was, another thing I found interesting was that Ned also represented Scott Blair, who was the Commonwealth attorney in our neighboring county of Perry County, who was sexually abusing all of his defendants, and he was the prosecutor. He was having people bring him rugs. He was having people do sexual favors for him. One of his victims was a man and came out to the local newspaper and told his story. This man did not get charged, he wasn't convicted of any sexual charges. You know what he was convicted of? And it was an FBI investigation. He was convicted and he pled guilty to honest services fraud, because they said that the people of Perry County was defrauded out of having a prosecutor perform his honest services. Are you joking me? That's all he was convicted of? That's all he was but I mean, I'm just at a loss for words over it. Okay. just at a total loss of words. So Ned, as a defense attorney, he filed this civil suit, but that doesn't make him a prosecutor. He's still an attorney. Civil and criminal cases are two different things. And so he has experience representing victims and perpetrators. So I'm sure his commentary and his interviews would be completely different depending on who he's representing. So you've got to remember that.
And when they met private in his chambers, that's when the judge got shot by the sheriff. So this lunch meeting, crucial, absolutely crucial part of this story, where they're at the street side bar and grill. The judge is there, the sheriff is there, there's other folks there as well. And it's not far from the courthouse. So everyone is just walking to lunch. So still with us to walk us through the video connected to the lunch meeting, CourtTV field reporter Cody Thomas. Cody, you were out there, you made that walk. What can you show us? What can you tell us?
Well, Vinny, like you just said, and you hit it right on the head, that restaurant is not far at all from the courthouse, maybe a football field and a half. So it's very close in proximity. But let's watch them as they are leaving this courthouse around 12:10. This is still around lunchtime. Here again is Judge Mullins with the crew that was in his chambers, walking together, a group of them, coming across the street right here, getting to the other side, and they'll eventually turn on this sidewalk and walk towards us here, going down to the street side bar and grill. And again, to note, he is with the group. Mickey Stines is nowhere to be found still. I mean, this is it. It's a short distance, but it will still take a good 5 to 6 minutes to walk to that restaurant.
Right, and this is at 12:10, right? So this is still, we saw them exit at 12:07 or so, and now they're making their way down the street. And it's a judge and a couple of other folks who are going to be super important witnesses in all this.
Exactly, and as you just heard in that soundbite we played, apparently at this lunch, there was something said between Mickey and the judge that caused them to want to leave and go back to the courthouse. So of course, like you said, very important players. And you see Judge Mullins right there looking down at his phone, but eventually getting to the restaurant. And there he is again. You got to forgive us, the video's a little glitchy that we received, but you get the your understanding of what's going on here. Now, 12:12, just 2 minutes later, here's Sheriff Stines outside the courthouse. Just a minute later, he's exiting the courthouse, and now he's going to be making his way to the restaurant. You see him walking again alone, the two people behind.
The person behind him, that guy behind him, was Jason Eccles. That's his deputy.
Behind him look like pedestrians, but again, that's him at the courthouse, 12:12. So just a few minutes behind, but still alone, nonetheless, away from the group that includes the judge and all the other acquaintances.
So it's really striking how the judge is with the group and the sheriff is by himself. All right, thanks so much, Cody. That brings us to the next question in our investigation tonight, and it's about the videos you were watching here, the lunchtime videos. You can see his gun holstered on the side. What do the lunchtime videos reveal? What do they tell us about the dynamics, and how about that lunchtime meeting? Joining me, clinical and forensic neuropsychologist, author of the book, The New Rules of Attachment, Dr. Judy Ho, and still with me, Elizabeth Jones, host of Hillbilly Crime. Okay, Elizabeth, let's talk first about the lunch meeting itself, right? So on their way to the lunch meeting, there's a conversation. There is something that is said. What do we know? What is going on at this lunch meeting? And how many people are there? Is it just the people we saw walking down the street?
I think so. I think that's going to be all that were there. So he wasn't, something that that he pointed out there, that is one of his deputies that's tagging along behind him. He was, and what I had heard was that the deputies didn't sit with Mickey at the lunch. So they must have sat at a separate table is what I heard. And the man in the black shirt that is one of the rehab fellows. He works with MCCC. And so they were kind of working as those community liaisons.
And when you say, what is the MCCC for folks around the country who are watching this?
Well, I think that's where they work with the rehab facilities for addiction.
Okay, and is it connected at all to the judge's drug court?
Yes, so that's what Michael Clark was doing. He worked for ARC, who was one of their go-to main facilities that Judge Mullins used. Well, really, all of Letcher County Court used it. I think even Judge Kraft in the other courtroom uses ARC a whole lot. And this fella here, I think they said, Mr. Eisen, he works with a different rehab facility, and they're both working in Mullins's court to get people into these rehab beds.
Fascinating. There's a lot more woven into what's going on here. But Dr. Judy Hill, let's just talk about the dynamics of all this, right? So you've got one of the sheriff's deputies is with the judge. The sheriff arrives separately. And then at lunch, it seems that the judge makes the comment that whatever the sheriff wanted to talk to him about, he wanted to talk to him privately about. To me, that to me might be the key to uncovering the tension or the rift between the sheriff and the judge.
Absolutely, Vinnie. There's a lot to unpack there, as you just said. And the fact that there was this, at least insinuation that their conversation should be in private means that there was something that was brewing prior to the shooting. And I understand that the sheriff's counsel is at least entertaining, if not planning, to maybe bring the insanity defense into this. So was there some kind of brewing psychosis, perhaps, that was developing on behalf of the sheriff, where he started to have paranoia or certain beliefs that somehow this judge was standing in the way of something important? That's something that the sheriff felt like he had to make right. And of course, I think when people mention the insanity defense in any way, it causes some outrage. Like, people want these individuals to serve their sentence the way that they should, especially given that this was a brutal murder. But it is interesting that this is the way that it's going. And we're going to see if there's actually evidence that this is truly something that would qualify for the insanity defense, which is a very minute amount of cases in all of the cases that are adjudicated.
Yeah, but it seems like it's the only space that is open to the defense here. Everything is caught on video. Our guests are staying with us. Still ahead, what do the after lunch videos reveal? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the shooting death of Kentucky Judge Kevin Mullins, who was killed in his chambers by Sheriff Mickey Stines. And video cameras captured everything except why he did it. Here's the story. Appalachia is the part of eastern Kentucky where the towns are small and the folks look out for each other. There's a lot of respect for law enforcement and the justice system. And folks who work in that system get to know each other very well. Such was the case for the local sheriff, Mickey Stines, and his friend, District Judge Kevin Mullins. But like any place, sometimes there is controversy. In Letcher County, it was a deputy who got caught sexually assaulting female inmates in the judge's chambers. That deputy was the bailiff of Judge Kevin Mullins and worked under Sheriff Mickey Stines. That was a couple of years ago. But now everyone is taking another look at that case because something else happened in the judge's chambers. The judge was shot and killed, and Sheriff Mickey Stines is the one being charged with the first-degree murder of a public official. And almost everything that happened that day was caught on camera, both inside and outside the courthouse.
And we are taking a look at that video from inside and from outside, trying to understand how everything.
I also want to point out something. That picture that they showed right there of the courthouse or of the courtroom. Let me go back there. That's not Mullins's courtroom, I don't think. I've been in both of them. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, that is
Everything that happened that day
Judge Kraft.
was caught on camera,
Courtroom.
both inside and outside.
Yeah. I don't think that's not Mullins's courtroom, is it? That's Judge Kraft's courtroom. So this is the courtroom upstairs. This is not Judge Mullins's courtroom, just to let y'all know.
Inside the courthouse.
And we are taking a look at that video from inside and from outside, trying to understand how everything transpired that day. We've taken you from some of the early videos before lunch to the walk down to the street side bar and cafe where the lunch meeting was. Now we've got the after lunch video. Joining us to break it all down, CourtTV field reporter Cody Thomas. Cody, to me, this is significant video because this takes us right up into the shooting.
Exactly right, Vinny. This is where the action begins right after lunch. After that statement was said between Judge Mullins and Mickey Stines, where they head back to the courthouse. So let's look. This is Mickey Stines leaving. And forgive us again, this is the video that was provided, so it is a little glitchy. But this is around 1:16, about an hour after they arrived to lunch. Now we move on from Mickey Stines leaving, and then we see Judge Mullins again. This is about 12 minutes later at 1:28. Mickey Stines leaves alone. Judge Mullins again leaving with the group of people as they make their way down the sidewalk, back up to the courthouse. And again, the courthouse is kind of.
Now they've picked up a couple people here. These two in the back in front of the black shirt, the Mr. Ison guy. I'm not sure who they are, but you're going to see them in the courthouse with them. So they've picked them up at lunch. So they could have met them there and had lunch with them for all we know.
Kind of towards the top left of your screen.
I'd like to get the video from the restaurant because the night that this happened, me and my girlfriend went down there, right? And the people that were at street side, the workers, they were all out on the front porch there of the restaurant, and somebody told that was there that day that Mickey kept getting up from the lunch and walking outside and like looking around, and they noticed it at the time, but they didn't really pay much attention to it until after the pew happened. And then once that happened, it reminded them of how strange they said Mickey was acting at lunch.
Right there, Mickey Stines has already left earlier, 12 minutes earlier, close to 15 minutes earlier. Here we are now at 1:32. This truck leaving is the sheriff's truck. That is Mickey Stines leaving and driving away from the courthouse. We don't know where he was going, but he was leaving the courthouse after they left the lunch. But then we get back here, around the same time, 1:29, Judge Mullins and the crew are back in his chambers. Everything's going great. Everything's seeming like it's a normal old day. They're back in there sitting on their phones. Judge Mullins looks like he's removing some sort of seat from under his desk. Everything's super casual. But Mickey Stines, again, nowhere to be found as Judge Mullins sits in the chambers with the crew. Now, a couple minutes later, he exits the chambers, walks across the hallway, because keep in mind, Judge Mullins still has court proceedings this day. So he's still actively on the clock. And of course, he comes back into the room. He goes to his chair, and at the moment he's about to pick up his robe and throw on his judge's robe, because again, he has proceedings this Thursday when the shooting happened. Here it is around 1:38. He's putting his robe on, about to head back into the courtroom, hop on the bench. Now here, 2:36. At the top of your screen, you'll see the white sheriff's truck coming back from a different direction and turning in.
Now, I'm going to stop that too. That's a one-way street right there. So where the sheriff turned to go behind the courthouse, he has to turn there. That's the only place that he can turn to get back there to his parking spot in the sheriff's department. And that's a one-way street that goes down the courthouse, and then it's a one-way when it turns behind the courthouse, and then it's a one-way coming up this other direction of the courthouse. So right where that white car is, that's a one-way street right there. So it's an out only. So you've got the in only on the right-hand side of the courthouse, and then it loops around the courthouse, and then it comes back up. The one-way street comes back up the other side. So that gives you a little bit more context of the driving right there. It's all a one-way loop around it.
To the parking lot next to the courthouse. Again, we don't know where Mickey Stines went, and now he's circling the courthouse. So he went behind the courthouse, he came back out and circled. Don't know why, don't know if he was thinking. He comes back down that same exact road, now at 239.
He may not
have headed right back into the courthouse. He's coming walking down the hallway towards Judge Mullins' chambers. Again, this is 239. He walks in this door.
Now that's the preacher right there, you guys. There's a great view of the preacher man. He's the one who got on the video right after the pew pew happened and kind of made it all about him. What has been reported was that day Mickey and Michael had taken some food boxes to people in the community, which is a very, very big thing here. So don't think that Mickey and Michael are the only two people who delivered food boxes. That's a huge part of this area. There's a lot of needy people, and there's a lot of people that need food banks. And so that's a very, very big thing here. So they're not the only ones to do it.
With one of his acquaintances right here behind him, he opens the door and then he walks into Judge Mullins' chambers. And of course, Vinnie, at 2:52, this is ultimately when the shooting happened. So just about 12 minutes, 13 minutes after he returned from wherever he was in the truck. And of course, we have to note that we do not have video of the minutes leading up to the shooting in those chambers. Allegedly, there's minutes where he walked in the chambers, they sat down, had some sort of conversation. He picked up Judge Mullins' phone, made a phone call, and then the shooting happened in those chambers.
It's striking. The other thing is, coming back from lunch, it seemed like there were more people with them, so maybe they met some folks there, because I saw those people walking. It seemed like a bunch of those folks were inside the chambers. But these videos, fascinating, brings us to the next question in our investigation, and it's about the after lunch videos. What do the after lunch videos reveal? And it's a lot. It is a lot, because my perception of this case has changed tremendously as we sort of break down this timeline now. Joining me, representing the woman suing Mickey Stines, Ned Pillersdorf is with us, and the host of Hillbilly Crime on YouTube. She's closely followed this case. Elizabeth Jones is with us. Elizabeth, again, I'll begin with you. The sheriff walks first by himself, he leaves first. 12 minutes later, everybody else seemed to leave. And then the sheriff got into his truck and headed back down the road past that restaurant that he was at. Do we know anything about where the sheriff went on that drive?
Well, from what has been reported, Mickey was out delivering food, meals with Michael Clark, the boy who he's walking back down the hallway with, in the black shirt and the black baseball cap.
Now, explain, delivering meals, in what sense delivering meals?
I think it was food boxes. That's a big thing around here, is different donations of, like, they'll have a great big food box and it'll have all kinds of stuff in it for families.
That's, wow. That's like, wow, he's doing charitable work moments before he's going into the chambers. Ned Pillersdorf, I now, my mind is being blown here. If the sheriff is taking the time after lunch to help out other community members, and then when he's done with that, he circles the courthouse a couple times and then goes in and within 15 minutes is taking out the judge? Wow.
You know, John Grisham could not have imagined these facts. By the way, all the local headlines around here saying he's asserting an insanity defense. You know, in the real world of practicing law, an insanity defense is generally someone who's schizophrenic, someone who's not in touch with reality, or some break with reality. And all of this indicates, in a sense, Stines was acting, I hate to use the word normally, before the shooting, which really leads to the question, why did all of this happen? And, I don't know. I do think it's interesting, though. His defense attorney keeps saying he wants to try the case in Letcher County, which is once more just more astonishing facts on astonishing facts.
Well, how about this though, Ned? How about, if folks there and Elizabeth can then chime in as well, it seems folks like Mickey Stines. It seems like he's pretty popular there and might get some benefit of some doubt about, how he was mentally. And I'm wondering if he's delivering meals with someone, Ned, that person becomes an important witness also when it comes to the sheriff's state of mind. What was he talking about? Was he acting like Mickey Stines normally acts?
Michael has come out and said that Mickey was talking crazy, that he was talking about how paranoid he was, that people were watching him. And, I think Mickey was under investigation. And I don't think it was just Mickey. I think there were people poking around when it comes to this Medicaid fraud investigation. And I think that there was more discovery to be found in the civil case. Now, I could be wrong, of course. We're just speculating. But I think that Mickey was kind of smart to, be thinking that people were watching him and that he was being investigated. I think it was the rest of them that felt too comfortable in their crimes, alleged crimes. And I think people just, the way that it's always been, nothing. Even if somebody did tell it, who's going to believe it? Who's going to come forward? Who's going to file the case? I couldn't get a lawyer nowhere to help me file a civil case. You don't have people around here that have money who can afford to hire an attorney if they even would take the case. In my opinion, the only reason that Ned took this case with Sabrina was because they had text messages. She had evidence, physical evidence, to prove what was happening. And it was an easy win. This was a slam dunk. But before this all went down, nothing was going to happen. You saw what sentence Benfield's got. He pled guilty. It stopped the investigating into the courthouse. It was kind of like a deal was bartered. You plead guilty, you take the blame, and then we'll end the investigation and everybody else will be okay. Nobody ever expected Mickey to walk in that courthouse and blow the judge away. And that's the only reason that there are so many eyeballs on this case, which is kind of leading back up into these old hollers of secrets. And more things are starting to come out.
I mean, that would seem logically on one level to undercut a quote unquote insanity defense. in my view, it's not really your typical insanity defense. This is more, I suspect, a defense that Judge Mullins did something that was so outrageous that inflamed Stines to do what he did. It's almost what we call a jury nullification defense. I don't know if that's the defense or not. You know, in fairness to Judge Mullins, he's not here to defend himself, but that's certainly, from everything I've seen from the defense attorney and the media reports, that's where this case is going. And the fact that they want to be tried in Letcher County, which is just full of rumors, which is fueled by social media, I think that's where they're going. But the videos you're showing show somebody acting normally, which certainly would normally, hate to use that word again, undercut your typical insanity defense.
You'd have to be under some level of delusion or something else. Elizabeth, do we know any of these people that we've seen in the video, the people from lunch? We saw a big group walking back down the street. We know that he's in, you say he's in the sheriff's pickup with someone else delivering these meals. Have any of these folks spoken publicly about that day?
Well, right after the shooting happened, Michael Clark came out and did a video on and he shared it on Facebook. And he said that he had been there that day and that Mickey was one of his very, very best friends and that Judge Mullins was one of his very, very best friends. And he shamed everybody for saying a bunch of rumors, telling a bunch of rumors. He said that he had spoken to Mickey's wife and his daughter and that the rumor was absolutely not true and that he had her permission to say that. And he really got so much backlash from that video that he ended up having to take it down.
Wow.
Because there's not just accusations being made against Judge Mullins. There's a whole lot of accusations being thrown around at pretty much that whole circle.
Wow.
At the courthouse.
Elizabeth Jones, host of Hillbilly Crime on YouTube. Always great to have you. Incredible insight. You are there. You understand this better than anyone that's been reporting on it. Thank you so much. Ned is going to stay with us. Still to come, what do the videos after the shooting reveal?
Come on now. Be fair to me. We're being good to you, brother.
See, there he is. There's that lead detective who said everybody told him what Mickey said. When I saw him testify, I got the explicit impression that he was not there and anything he knew was secondhand. So that really bothers me, the way that he testified. And what he even said during that testimony, I didn't think really matched up with what we've seen in the videos, but that was just my perception. Okay, so, but there he is.
You stick your leg up in there. Come on now, guys. Please don't do this to me. I can't say it like this.
Slide sideways.
I can't. Come on now. Be fair to me. We're being good to you, brother. You stick your leg up in there. Come on now, guys. Please don't do this to me. Please don't do this to me. Please. You want to scoot on over a little bit to the left? Come on now. Try to scoot on over a little bit more. That way we don't hit you. Can you go a little bit farther? I just want to hit you with the door. Put your knee in there, my friend. Hey, Jason. Hey, Bates. All right. Hey, Bates. Can we loosen this up a little or give the window down? I'm sorry. Can we loosen this up a little? Be fair to me, man.
Important video there. Even though we don't see the sheriff, you can hear him. This is moments after he has shot and killed the judge. So in a case where it may all come down to the state of mind of the sheriff, listening to him talk is extremely significant. Now, it's also extremely significant to see all the video and what is happening at the time of the shooting and just after the shooting. Still with us to walk us through this video, Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. Cody, take us through now. You've taken us up to and through the shooting. What happens next?
Well, Vinny, of course, this is the ending. This is the aftermath. This is everything leading up to the eventual arrest. So let's take a view inside the courthouse. This is inside the courtroom. This is at 2:52, the same minute that the shooting happened. See all those women's faces all jump and they look in the same direction. Clearly, they heard something that sounded like a gunshot or even just heard something that just didn't sound right. Of course, they got up, they look scared, they look frantic, they're grabbing their things and running out of the courtroom. And you can imagine a gunshot inside with all those acoustics echoing off of each other. It was probably sound like a sonic boom in there. And you see her.
And see, you heard what he said. It probably sounded like a sonic boom in there. Remember, after this happened, you've got a whole group of people, a whole crowd of people hanging out in front of the courthouse. Now, it's not like one pew-pew went off. This judge had 8 holes in him. So it looked to me like Mickey emptied his weapon. And they didn't find the pew-pew person. And all these cops come rolling up in front of the courthouse and nobody is trying to get people away. I mean, I ain't never seen a bunch less trained people than what we've seen right here in these videos. I mean, even you're going to see Michael Clark, the preacher man, you're going to see him come running down the sidewalk and he about runs that woman over. There she is too, guys. That woman in the green dress in the right-hand side of this video. That's the woman in the green dress that Michael about runs over, running down the sidewalk. And then in the new video, you're going to see him come back. After he runs away, he turns around and he comes back and you're going to see him.
Coming out this door, these 2 women leaving the door, the guy getting off the little bench right there, walking out the door. Again, this is in the aftermath of the shooting. And here you see a woman running out of the hallway, looking around as if, you know, she doesn't know what really happened, but that loud noise is enough to scare anyone. This woman's getting out too. She's looking around, leaving the building. And that's the woman we just saw again, running through that door and eventually exiting the courthouse. Now
that woman, she ran into the judge's chambers. So that was the hallway that we saw at the very beginning of this video, of this episode, when I showed you the front of the courthouse, down that long hallway, and then the doorway to the right, the brown door, that led into that hallway where you saw that woman go running just then. And it looked to me like she ran into the judge's chambers.
Fast forward to outside. Now we see the people, you can see the sprinting happening now.
There's the green dress lady. Keep your eyes on her. Michael's about knock her down.
As if they've realized what's happening. See how many people are sprinting out of the courthouse in a frenzy. And right there, walking slowly at 2:54, just 2 minutes after the shooting, down the courthouse stairs, that is Sheriff Stines.
There's me.
Walking as if nothing's happened. He's just walking, swaying his arms, just very calm. He's done the shooting and he just walks and turns the corner here. You can see his gun holster on his belt. 2:55. He's walking back. Or here's the deputies arriving, law enforcement arriving. They're jumping out, running down the street, going.
Watch all these cops. There's Michael on the very right-hand side. He just came back now that all the cops have showed up. But look at all them people standing out on the courthouse steps, and they just sit down on the flower pots here in a minute on the little bench there, and nobody's telling them to leave, you know, get them back or anything.
Inside, you see them all geared up. They got the guns ready to go. And the top right of the screen there, you see Sheriff Stines walking slowly back. There are deputies running right past him because you can imagine, Vinny, you don't expect the sheriff of the town or the whole county to shoot the judge. So they're not expecting Sheriff Mickey Stines to be the culprit in this. And there's Stines walking slowly back towards the courthouse, walking back towards the stairs. He takes another little pause here. And again, no one's looking at him. He's the sheriff. You wouldn't expect this to happen. Here we are, 2:55 again. He's walking slowly. His gun is still on his holster. He takes a little jog up the stairs to walk back in. And Vinnie, it was reported that he surrendered himself, but we do not have the video of him inside giving himself up to law enforcement and turning himself in after the shooting. But we do have the video right here of him during the arrest, walking across the dash cam video of this law enforcement vehicle. Now he is apprehended. He's in custody after shooting Judge Mullins in those chambers.
So from all the videos that we've obtained, two significant ones have not been released, and that would be the sheriff surrendering himself. He's been described as having his hands up in the air when he goes back in, and also the video in the moments just before the shooting in the chambers. But let's get back to these videos because they are very significant. They bring us to the next question in our investigation, which is, what do the videos after the shooting reveal? Inside the courthouse and with the sheriff himself. Still with me, Ned Pillersdorf, and joining me, clinical forensic neuropsychologist and author of the book, The New Rules of Attachment, Dr. Judy Ho. Dr. Judy Ho, there was clearly some level of panic from folks inside, which was it was a stark contrast to the sheriff. Everyone else is running out, and the sheriff is casually walking out.
Yes, that video is disturbing because it seems as if he doesn't really care about what had happened and the fact that he just murdered a dear colleague, a judge, no less. But I think that you can see how this might be utilized by his counsel as support for the insanity defense, that, oh, well, maybe he didn't know right from wrong, and that's why he was sort of sauntering around casually. But Vinnie, I would say that the video that we just saw earlier, where we didn't see his face, but we could hear his voice, he's pleading with his former colleagues, naming them, asking them to be fair and to be nice to him, that during that moment, he may have well been having a panic attack. Because
And did you notice how the deputies, the people that he was talking to, how they were talking to him? You know, he was like, please, brother, come on now, guys, come on, brother, be good to me, be fair to me. And they're like, we are, Mickey, don't worry about it, buddy, we got you, Mickey. I wonder why people weren't saying, oh my God, Mickey, what the hell are you doing? I mean, wouldn't that be how you would react? Not like, oh, Mickey, was it have something to do with your family? Was it about your daughter, Mickey? I'd be flipping out. I mean, I know these are police officers, but they weren't very well trained police officers. So can't nobody tell me they were trained to be in control of their emotions, because what we have seen, they've been immature, childish, unqualified, just a mess down there.
Because he realized the repercussions of what is going on. And I think that would then go against most definitions of the insanity defense, which requires that the person did not know right from wrong at the time of the crime.
Right. And the time I've seen it successful through the years here at CourtTV is in a situation, and it usually involves a mother and her children, when a mother believes she's saving her children. She's killing them, but she believes she has to kill them to save them from Satan and are being directed by God. And I've seen it successfully done at trial, but it's extremely rare. Ned, what do you think about the observations of the sheriff himself afterwards here, where he is walking out of the courthouse, kind of walking around the side and watching and observing, but exposing his holstered gun?
I hate to use the word, he's acting normally in a sense. And if I'm defending Sheriff Stines, would never use the word insanity. This is really going to be what we call a justification defense, that there was something going on in those moments.
Look, this is everybody hanging out in front of the courthouse. They still don't know who pew-pewed Judge Mullins. And all these people are just hanging out. after it was unloaded. Like, he was shot 8 times. I know I just said that, but my point is, I mean, who wouldn't have thought that that was an active pew-pew person, you know? And everybody just hanging out. Look, that guy up on the porch up there at the railings. He just leaning on the rails like no big deal.
Where they had that private conversation that caused all this.
And there's Michael Clark back there in the back, lurking around behind them plants. See, that's the preacher man, y'all. He ain't no preacher no more. Not here, he ain't.
I do think it was interesting, the video you showed of him talking to the fellow law enforcement officers. That sounded almost like, hey, we're part of the same team. We're colleagues. Take it easy on me. And that's kind of, once again, that's something that you'd normally expect from a sheriff who's suddenly being charged with a crime, that is asking fellow law enforcement to help him out. Once again, this is not your typical insanity case. It's not even close. This is some sort of, I did what I did because I felt justified in doing it. And I think that's where the defense is going. And as I've indicated, there's something going on in terms of why he felt he was justified in doing this.
And I want to point out something else too. Why did Judge Mullins just turn his head and put his hand up? He knew that wasn't going to stop no bullet. Why did he not jump up and at least fight or scream at him? If he would have done something, he could have done anything besides what he did. He might have been able to wrestle it away from Mickey. He might have been able to get out that door. But he didn't. He just kind of turned his head and put his hand up. I mean, I'm sure he wasn't expecting this. But I've always said, if somebody was to try and grab me and pull me in a car or something, I'm going to fight. I'm going to scream. I mean, I'd rather have a fighting chance than just lay down and allow them to take my life without no fight.
Because this is certainly not your typical insanity defense where somebody is, as I indicated, schizophrenic, they don't know where they are, they're actively hallucinating.
There's nothing,
and again,
we're out of time again, Ned. Yeah, but there's nothing typical about this case at all. Thank you both so much. Great to have you, Ned Pillersdorf and Dr. Judy.
Okay, so let me stop sharing this one, and I will pull up this other video of Michael, the one that he put on Facebook. Let's see. Let me pull it up this other way here. So he put this up. I don't know if it was later that day or if it was the next day. It might have been the next day. I'm not sure. But he put it up and he quickly took it back down because there were a lot of backlash. He got a lot of backlash speaking out about this. Okay, here it is. So let me share it. I played it the other night too, y'all.
Known as seen nationwide now what all happened. Multiple news agencies continue to reach out to me. I'm not going to be able to comment to them or anything like that, but
he makes this all about himself. As long as you give this man a microphone and a camera, buddy, he is all action.
I have spoken to the sheriff's wife and daughter and talked to her a couple of times today. And, you know, you just really need to be praying and quit gossiping and spreading rumors, because you're going to be really surprised when absolutely nothing that you've been posting and saying is true or accurate. And I have permission from the family to say that. Mental illness is real. People go through hard things that we don't know what they're going through. Bottom line, one of my best, closest, dearest friends, Judge Mullins, was killed yesterday. And one of my best, closest friends, Sheriff Mickey Stines, is locked up and charged with murder. The motive and everything will come out, and everyone will eventually know why. And it's not going to be nothing the reason that not you, but many are spreading and talking and hurting children. That the judge has a wife and children that's hurting. The sheriff has a wife and a child who I've spoke to twice today who are truly hurting.
Yeah. I think we all have children. The victims also had children. All of these people, there's a whole lot of people in prison who have children. You can't use that as a way to try and intimidate people and shut up the community. It don't work. And a lot of people have been able to see right through a lot of these things. But you got to remember, this guy here is really charming and he's charismatic, or at least he thinks he is. And, as soon as you get into his presence, he's shaking your hand and, hey, buddy, how you doing? He has this is the guy who the governor pardoned. Okay. He had close to, I don't know how many, but he had a whole bunch of drug trafficking charges, and the governor pardoned him, gave him a complete pardon. For what? Because he's got a good mouthpiece on him. He'd be able to sell an Eskimo and Igloo, because that's the only thing he deserved that pardon for, in my opinion. But it might not be the most popular one. I don't know.
I love you all. I love Letcher County. I'm there every day. I work there. I've got a church there. My heart is there. And what this community needs is prayers, kindness, and mercy. And if you do not know and don't have firsthand knowledge of something, why in the world would you get on there spreading lies and rumors? I don't get it. I don't get it. And you ought to be ashamed, because there's a little girl of the sheriff's that's devastated by these rumors. And there's also little girls who lost a father. And we need to think about that. Continue to pray for everyone that was involved. Thank God for the first responders that was there within minutes. Thank God for protecting me, who was with the sheriff all day yesterday, and the judge. And thank God, by the grace of God, that I'm alive. And just pray for our community, for healing to come about. I love you all. God bless you all. And have a great day.
Have a great day. Our community has just been shattered, and absolutely just, I don't even know. This guy makes me speechless. I blocked him on my Facebook a long time ago because I just couldn't stand to see stuff come up in my feed. But, all right, guys. Well, I'm going to end this one, and we'll have our normal show tonight. We had our first baseball game last night, and it ended up being a doubleheader, so we didn't get home till late. All right. Well, we'll see you this evening. Peace out, Girl Scout. Bye.
You can't hide from hillbilly crime.
there's a crew in town. The head hillbillies are making their rounds. Small town whispers loud and clear. The sheriff shot the judge in his chambers chair.
Sheriff got a secret he won't keep. Judge shot dead in his disbelief. A lot of people have some stories to tell. Dark pass away, get the sound of a shotgun shell.
All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground, rumors fly and they can't be bound.
Neighbors hide behind their blinds, whisper tales of troubled minds. Skeletons covering the mountainside, a treacherous reality in the pines.
Winter reveals the hidden lies. Moonlight couldn't mask their cries. Shadows